Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. So, first thing I want to do is tell you why I'm doing this. I saw on the news a few days ago that Samaritan's Purse, a Christian relief organization, had moved one of their mobile hospitals to Cremona, Italy, an area of Italy that's been super hard hit by this coronavirus, and I felt compelled. I have friends that live over in Cremona, and so I wanted to do this project. So I'm building this bow, start to finish, live on YouTube, and we want the proceeds of the bow to go to Samaritan's Purse for helping out our friends in Cremona. So the next thing we're going to do here today is we're going to put the pearl slide in. So here's the frog we're working on, and this is one I'm working on sort of along with it. And here's a sample slide. You can see how the slide is, all these shimmery colors. But our friend David Werther has come up with this method of enhancing the colors on these slides, and it's pretty amazing the difference in colors. It's the same material, just with this treatment. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this in this bow. Okay. So we're going to just take a piece of ebony and we're going to just glue it down. And we want to make sure that the direction of the ebony, or of the slide, is so that it looks the best when the frog is like this. So the head of the bow is off this way. So that's sort of the standard angle. And choose our side we like the best. Now it's good in a lot of different directions. I don't think there's any mistakes to be made here. I think we're going to do that one. Okay, so we're going to glue this down to here, and I'm going to scuff up this back because this has been polished. Okay, we're going to glue it down to our ebony. I'm just going to leave a little bit of the ebony off to the end.
You don't clean it up with alcohol first?
Nah, I don't bother on the pearl. Okay. Oops. Figures.
Do you want some of this?
Nope.
Okay.
Just want to get my finger off of it. There we go. Okay. Let that dry for a few minutes. Okay, looks good. And I'm going to take the saw and just saw this off and leave maybe 5 millimeters on the end here.
I got it.
I think it would be really nice if someday somebody figured out the physics of when you drop something off of your bench and it hits your apron, somehow it reaches nearly the speed of light as it goes across the room, and you have to go and figure out where it went to. So, okay, let's clean this up a little bit more.
Tyler said you've already got the heel plate already glued in as well, right?
Yep, it's all glued in.
We did that in the last video, Tyler. Come on, catch up.
Okay. Ooh, that's pretty. All right, so now I'm going to thin this down. So we made the slide track is 1.5 millimeters deep. So we need to make this about 1.6 millimeters. So try to do this up here. So I just use my thumbs, a nice sharp plane. It's a little hard to do it up here.
Usually you do this in your
So
lap.
I'm doing it on my lap, yeah. Okay, let's see what we're doing here. It's well over sized. Okay, I'm gonna get in here, get her done.
Huh. I thought maybe I'd be able to catch it, but I can't.
Okay. Still 2-7. You're sorry.
That's alright.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. 2-3. Two. 2-2. $2.10. 2.05.
So that special wabi that you're using, you can buy that from guitarpartsandmore.com or bowworks.com.
Yeah, he's working on some right now. Pretty lengthy process of infusing it with whatever special sauce he uses. He's done some mother of pearl. He sent me some photos of it, and he said, you know, it's so spectacular, and you really can't. Photos don't do it justice. I guarantee you that. It just looks amazing compared to the regular abalone. Okay, so we're just about 1/10 of a millimeter over height here.
Where do you get
That's
your
good.
silver from?
I get my silver from a company called Hauser and Miller. There are a bunch of different companies around that you can get it from, but I get it in sheets. I can show you that later. I'll show that when we do the underslide. Okay, I'm just gonna trim away the excess ebony here, staying away from the pearl so I don't dull my knife. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to take my paraffin and just scrub it into the ebony here, and just kind of heat it up and rub it in. Okay, so got that nice and smooth. And then I'm going to go back to my diamond plate here. And actually going to use some water with it. And I'm going to start trimming this down. I'm sure there's plenty of ways of doing this. You can use sandpaper. The shell tends to eat your files alive, so I'd rather not use my files any more than I have to on this. And this diamond cuts really fast, so it's pretty nice. Go ahead and clean that up a little bit. And hit the other other side.
So you're putting the angle on the edge of the slide, right?
Yep, I'm putting that 15-degree angle. Okay, still way too wide to get in my slide track here, so keep going. Doing fitting slides is going to be super frustrating because it's so easy to get angles wrong. It just takes a lot of practice, and try to keep the cussing to a minimum.
It's supposed to be family friendly.
Family friendly, yeah. There's a tool company called Alberti that makes tools specifically for the violin trade, and he has a hand-powered disc sander, and he's made a gizmo that you can put the slide in, that you can sand the slide down to. I think it's supposed to fit it. You actually take the frog and you set the angle of the taper, sort of preset it in the gizmo, and it will sand it right down to the perfect size. It's a pretty pricey machine, but if you were doing hundreds of them, it would be worth doing.
That's candy, that's not lunch.
Getting close here. Let's see if we're going to start fitting. Nope, not yet. This was a cello slide, so it's a bit oversized. Still not there.
Oh, Jack said he was having some connection problems. He asked what the angle of the bow making chisel was.
Ooh, probably 35 degrees or so. It's going to have to be pretty steep for ebony.
That's about the same angle we have on most of our tools, isn't it?
Yeah, ebony and Pernambuco are just so hard on the edges. Ooh, starting. All right. It's going to be amazing. Okay. think my angle looks pretty good. Think it looks good, so we'll see. This is definitely one of those take your time chores here, because it can get out of hand here really fast.
That pearl looks really good in the camera.
Yeah. And you know, I use paraffin. I know a lot of makers like to use soap instead, so I'm not sure it matters that much. Just whatever you're used to. Okay, getting in there. I think I'm going to thin down the ebony. And no, this pearl's real thick, so I think we'll let it stick up a bit. Okay, so from here on out, I'm done with the water. I'm gonna stick with the diamond plate.
Now, why did you decide to stop using the water?
Well, I don't want to swell up the ebony any more than I have to. Okay, and so, like I said, I think I have my angles right. So I'm going to cut it on one side, and then I'm going to cut it on the other side, so I don't start to change those angles anymore now that I've got them dialed in. Okay, hit it with the wax. Okay, so one of the things you can do now is, once you got the slide in, and we can do the same thing as we did with the heel plate here, so we can sort of just barely get it in, and then you can see if you can lift it in the front, or if it rocks at the back because it's a little loose at the back or a little loose at the front. So I think we're doing great here.
You can also go by sound too.
Well, yeah, we'll get close here. We'll do that. Not sure we'll be able to hear it on the mic, but we'll try it. Okay, there's that. Looking good. Okay, so like Kate said, you can also hear it too. You can tap it. See if you can hear the difference.
I can hear.
So if it makes more sound, that means it might be just the tiniest bit loose, and it is just a tiny bit loose here. So I need to make it slightly narrower in the back than I do in the front. So I'm just going to go about 4 cuts on this side. See how we did. Sounds about the same.
Ravelo said he could hear it.
It's pretty cool. Something you can't exactly see all the time, so. All right, let's take off 2, 3, 4. Let's see what we got. Okay. Do this way. It's amazing. It's looking good.
You might want to go back and watch this video so that you can see all the flashes of that
The pearl.
lobby.
Yeah, I have to send it link to David so he can see it.
What's Dave doing? He should be watching.
He's building boats, I'm sure. So our friend David Werther, who is the person who now owns Bowworks. I was talking to him the other day. So his passion is building boats. He's building the history of sailing in model ships. They're anywhere from, say, that big to maybe that big. And they're all made out of old ivory. And it's all estate stuff. It's, 50, 100-year-old material, so there's nothing, it's all pre-ban material. But so he has this museum now that he has all his boats in, his ships. And we all have this stay-at-home order, and he kind of has to go there and watch over it. They had a couple of guys come in, and I think they were looking for something that they could take home without paying for it. So he's a little concerned about
Did
his...
they break in, or were they
No,
just
they
on
came in
property?
when he was open, and he said they didn't look like museum goers. So, okay, getting close here.
Tony said David's museum is amazing. His family also makes knives, and I got a set of kitchen knives, and they are the best knives I have ever had in my whole life.
Yep. All right, here we go. Wow, that really is very good. Just have to clean that up just a little bit. So I've got the slide fit in there. It's bumping up against the petite slide now. I just have to clean up this joint. Let's get my light in here. Turn a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Well, first try. That doesn't happen very often.
Tony asked, how tight of a fit are you going for?
You certainly don't want it to fall out. I do fit it tight enough typically that I'll take my little hammer and tap it like that. Yeah, you don't want it so loose that it falls out, because then you're going to have gaps on the sides. So yeah, it's snug, let's put it that way. But you don't want it so tight that you can't get it back out without extraordinary means, let's put it that way. Okay, so we got it fit. Now we have to cut it off, and I use my jeweler saw, and this is something you can do with your own frog, your something you've made, but never ever 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 do this as a when you're replacing a slide, and that is to cut this while it's on the frog.
And why wouldn't
Because
you want to do that?
you don't want to accidentally damage an old frog.
But it's okay if it's your own.
Yeah, you can mangle your own. No problem. Okay.
Okay, so you just started it while it was on the
Started
saw.
it, and now I'm going to saw down. So I want to saw down to the ebony, but obviously not into the ebony. There we go. All right, and then this spatula again comes in real handy for hopefully popping that off. Yeah, it's a good glue joint. Darn it. You don't want to crack that. So, all righty. Take my chisel and kind of get underneath it if I can. There we go. And let's see. We're going to cut this off. I'll put a ruler on there so we can measure it. So we're going to make that about 5 millimeters long. Whoops. Right there. Back on the frog. Get rid of that. Okay, now I'm going to take my chisel and I'm going to trim the little tongue end here of this. Trim it down to the height of these two rails. Got that trimmed down. You can check it with a straight edge to see that you don't have a hump in the middle of it, but we're good here. So now we're going to trim this back and try really, really, really hard not to trim back the ebony, which means we'd have to refit the ferrule. So we're going to be super careful here. Put on my visors. You see what I'm doing here? Shadow. Pretty close. Again, I'm using my little pillar file. Check and see how we're doing here. Rocks a little bit.
This is also something you would not want to do on an old bow.
Yeah, you definitely don't do this on an old bow. file them separately, file it separately, and then check it. All right. Let's see if I can find that ferrule somewhere here. Hiding on my bench somewhere, Kate.
Bench blindness.
Bench blindness, yeah. Well, come on. All right, start putting things away. That's how you find stuff.
You lost it, you're going to have to make
I
another
have to
one.
make a new one, yeah, no. Absolutely not. There it is. Okay. So put that on. Check it again. So I'm looking here to see if I've got a little gap with the light, and it looks great. So I'm going to consider that fit. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the excess of the heel plate. So I'm going to go back to my jeweler's saw here and try really hard not to saw away at the ebony. That's never good. All right, there we go. Take a file and clean up that a little bit. Alright, so just for fun here, just clean this all up and see how well we did with our fit and see what this material is going to look like. So this is just 400 grit sandpaper. Almost there. All right. Aside. I can put a little alcohol on here and you can see how amazing that's going to look when it's all done. All right, I think how much time we have,
We're
Kate?
at 35 minutes, so maybe we should take some questions if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, there's about a minute time lag, so it'll take a few minutes to get into it. So I wanted to show you. It's a project I was involved with over the last couple of years. So this is basically a catalog that we put together It was based on an exhibit that we did at the Violin Society of America's convention in Cleveland. And my good friend Bruce Babbitt collected well over 300 bows that we had in this collection. And Bruce and I spent 2 days taking photographs of all of these bows. And Bruce has done a marvelous job of putting together this amazing book. So it's got, photos are wonderful, and it's going to be an absolutely fabulous reference material for years to come. So.
And if
Anyways.
they wanted it, where could they get it?
So you can get a copy of this from the Violin Society of America. I think it's about $150, which for books of this quality, it's super affordable. Anyways, check it out. All right.
I think you do have to be a member.
You can still buy it even if you're not a member.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure.
And you also did a similar book to that on British bows?
We did a catalog 2 years earlier that was on, it's called The British Bow, and it's of all of the English bow makers. So, all right.
I don't see any questions.
All
Nobody
right.
wants to ask any questions?
All right, well, let's save them for, let's go ahead and take a break now, and then we're going to go ahead and fit the underslide, make and fit the underslide.
What
All
time
right.
are we going to be back?
So let's just do 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.